16 minutes after 7, on to this now. Get out now. This was the unambiguous message from US President Donald Trump to residents of the Iranian capital Tehran as he told them to immediately evacuate the city. It comes after days of missile exchanges since Friday's surprise attack by Israel targeting Iranian nuclear and military facilities. And despite calls for a de-escalation, neither side seems ready to back down as the number of casualties, including civilians, continues to grow in both countries. I explained earlier the Israeli Prime Minister not ruling out precision targeting of the supreme leader of Iran, Ali Khamenei. We've got two perspectives on this issue. Firstly, a South African one. We'll speak to Kevin Bloom, who's an investigative journalist at the Daily Maverick and has covered the region. But we're also joined by Eyal Dror, who is a commander of Israel's Operation Good Neighbor, a former officer of the Israeli Defense Force. And I'll start with you, Kevin, for the South African perspective. Thank you for your time. When news of the Israeli attacks on Iran broke out, were you surprised?
Bongani, I wasn't. I had been expecting this along with a number of international journalists. And it was a response to the pressure on Gaza and the fact that Israel could no longer hide the atrocities and the war crimes that were going on. There were increasing calls for a Palestinian state. And the evidence that had been piling up, presented by the likes of Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, the world's most esteemed and respected genocide and Holocaust academics, many of them Jewish and Israeli, Omer Bar-Tov, Amos Goldberg. The word was genocide. And as Israel continues to do, double down. Iran was the last option. And the idea that this was a preemptive strike, that it was a week away, Iran was a week away from developing nuclear capacities, well, we've been hearing that for 30 years. There was no proof. Not the Mossad, not the CIA. We're still waiting for proof that they were a week away. The idea that it was preemptive would require some sort of emergency, some sort of aspect of self-defense. We didn't see that.
Yeah.
Over and above this, there's the issue of the Non-Proliferation Treaty. Israel's not a signatory to it. It's an open secret that Israel has nuclear weapons. Iran is a signatory to it. And the International Atomic Energy Agency had been doing regular inspections. And there was
Kevin,
nothing had come out.
Could it be argued, though, that that same agency, the International Atomic Energy Agency, had recently noted difficulties in getting access to what the Iranians were up to? Would that be sufficient justification for these moves?
Even the agency itself said whatever Israel is pointing at in its recent report, that does not land in the conclusion that they were a week away from a nuclear bomb.
I said in my intro, the Israeli Prime Minister has not ruled out targeting the supreme leader of Iran. We saw Donald Trump saying, Ali Khamenei would be an easy target. That doesn't sound like any de-escalation may be on the cards. No.
From Israel's perspective, there's no off-ramps. No off-ramps were offered to Hamas at any point, aside from complete surrender. And it was Israel who broke the ceasefire in Gaza on the 18th of March and then instituted its siege. So now we're seeing no intent at all to negotiate. It's Iran that wants to negotiate. They were at the negotiating table. And the tragedy of this is, whereas Iran might have been okay with what the world wanted before from Iran, which was don't develop a nuclear bomb. And there was no evidence that Iran was going to. Now Iran's going to want one because of the deterrence factor. For the same reason North Korea doesn't get bombed, because it's got a nuclear bomb. So Israel is going to keep on doubling down, has every intention of pulling the United States into this war. Bibi has been open about that for decades, that he wants the US to back him up. And we're in a situation where we haven't been before. It's getting very, very scary.
Kevin,
because on Iran's side, you've
yeah,
got the Chinese and the Russians who are in an alliance and who are supplying bombs to Iran. And Iran's not going to run out of weaponry. And we heard this all before in 2003 with the weapons of mass destruction.
right.
So,
Yeah.
so we know the scripture, and yet here we sit.
Let's just talk, though, about the makeup of dynamics in Iran internally. I mean, the regime has not necessarily always been popular. We can think back to the protests in 2022, strictly at that time against the enforcement of dress codes, especially for women. How easy was that civil unrest or that disquiet from the population? How easy did that make the work of Mossad? In other words, say Iranian citizens, I beg your pardon, secretly collaborating with the Israeli intelligence?
So, I mean, the inner details of that, I'm not an expert on. We might have to ask the
All right.
lieutenant colonel. But what I think is true is that it's up to Iranians themselves to effect regime change. There are many in Iran who don't agree with this government, but like anyone would be, when they get attacked by a foreign power, they're not on Israel's side. They're getting bombed right now. The one figure that I heard on the newscast was 200 civilians dead. I've seen another one of 600 dead. Israel is targeting buildings. Yes, there might be senior leaders in these apartment blocks, but they're also women and children. This is they're doing in Tehran what they did in Gaza.
Kevin, how do you respond? Sorry to interrupt you there. How do you respond? Because many of us, when we point out the aggression of Israel, especially under Netanyahu, are branded anti-Semitic.
Well, I'm Jewish. I have family in Israel. I grew up indoctrinated. There was a period where I wanted to live in Israel. There was a period where I wanted to join the IDF. This was 30 years ago. I did preparatory stuff there in the military. The Jewish journalists and commentators who I follow, guys like Max Blumenthal, Glenn Greenwald, Ori Goldberg, Peter Baynard, who understand the culture internally and have seen through what is essentially a Zionist indoctrination. A guy like Gabo Mate, a Holocaust survivor, says that Zionism will be looked upon as one of the greatest tragedies of Jewish history. I firmly believe this. None of this is adding to Israeli security or Jewish security. In fact, it's making us in the world unsafer. And
Right.
so, words like anti-Semitism are weaponized. They're meaningless today.
Kevin Bloom, thank you for your time. Listening to that, as I said earlier, is Eyal Dror, who is the commander of Israel's Operation Good Neighbor, if you will, the benevolent arm of the Israeli Defense Force. He himself, a former officer, listening to us from Tel Aviv, I understand. Thank you for your time and welcome to our program. And I'm going to ask you to just give a broad response to what you've just heard from Kevin Bloom. Good morning.
Good morning. So first of all, I'm broadcasting not from Tel Aviv. I'm broadcasting from a small community next to the Lebanese border, a community that has been evacuated because Hezbollah decided to shoot missiles towards Israel since October 8th and participate in a war that he wasn't a part of it. He was a part of it because he was like one of the proxies of Iran. And luckily we came back home after 16 months away.
Thank you for that correction.
Now, regarding to what Mr. Kevin said, I must say that I'm still confused how people that are living out so far away from Israel and definitely do not understand exactly the Middle East can criticize Israel without knowing all the details. I think it's a question of facts. And the attempts to put Israel on the bad side, it will not work. Iran, a dictatorship, a radical Islamic country that for over than 40 years, building proxies that export terror, which affect the world, the Middle East. By the way, if you will ask the people of the Middle East, they will tell you that there was more death, more casualties, more damages not because Gaza, not because Israel, but because of the Iranian. Again, facts,
All right.
not wishful thinking.
Eyal,
Now,
can we bring it to what's unfolding now? I mean, it was Israel that attacked Iran on Friday. It was Israel that killed the top nuclear negotiator for Iran, even as a deal seemed on the offering. Are those not facts?
the facts is that Iran is cheating the world for 30 years by a psychological warfare. When they are speaking about negotiation, the only thing, and again, you have to understand the root of the Islamic regime, the Shiite, go back 1,500 years ago. They are cheating, they are lying, the only wish is to continue to produce this nuclear bomb. During the years, Israel did a couple of attempts to stop this project, which was like just a part of a success because we succeeded just to stop it for a short period of time. When the IDF got the understanding, and people is speaking here about Bibi, about Gaza, with all due respect to our prime minister, it is, yes, this is the decision of the prime minister. However, it was based by Intel that our the Mossad and other intelligence organization brought that Iran took the final decision to run into a nuclear. We will not
I
allow.
played a little earlier on. I played a montage.
Just a second, with your permission. Israel said that we will not agree for nuclear weapon with Iran. And when we understood that there isn't any other hope, we decided to attack. And
Eyal,
think
I tell you why
in the
this is
end of the
important.
day,
Hold on. I tell you why this is important. I played a montage for my listeners earlier on, clips going back as far as 1996, but many times since then, where even when he was in opposition, the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was saying Iran is a month away, Iran is a few weeks away, Iran will produce X number of bombs, etc., etc. This is something he has written about. This is something he has been saying for decades. What makes you think that he suddenly has better intelligence than he's had for the last 30 years?
First of all, when he said that Iran is like in 2-3 years, I remind you that there was like mysterious explosions in Natanz and other places in Iran, and people were eliminated. It means that although if there was the objective time that it would be take 2 years, for example, and Israel did some moves, it postponed it. I understand, and I will not hesitate the abilities of our intelligence that it was now reaching to the final stage. And we will not stand aside, and we will see a country, by the way, a country that calls to destroy the state of Israel. This is the only country in the world that calls to destroy another country. If you think that, or any one of the respectable audience or respectable journalist or anyone in the world think that Israel will just sit and allow a country that calls day by day that Israel should be eliminated, that sponsor terror in order to destroy us. It wasn't just wishful thinking. It wasn't just declaration. It was actions. So when the time arrives, Israel decided that we don't have any other choice. And I do believe, by the way, we are in historic moments now. I do believe that finally, or sometimes, the world will say thank you, Israel, because the world will understand that Iran is a threat to the Middle East, to the peace in the Middle East, not Israel. You can ask the Iraqi people, you can ask the Lebanese people, you can ask the Iranian people, you can ask the Syrian people.
All right, Eyal Dror. I'm sure I could ask many others about the other side too. Commander of Israel's Operation Good Neighbor there, giving us a perspective from inside Israel.
Current events, developing stories,
tough questions.
Your voice making a difference.
This is Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa.